You scoundrel. Whose daughter do you think you're yelling at? Kevin's booming voice echoed across the floor. I have become the mentor for Kevin's daughter, who got into the company through connections. However, she seemed completely unmotivated and kept causing trouble despite my warnings. Her unrepentant attitude pushed me to my limit, and I ended up raising my voice at her. Seeing this, Kevin roared in fury. You made my daughter cry. You're the worst kind of scum. Someone as worthless as you doesn't belong in our company. Get out of here now. I simply replied, Understood. I'll leave, and left the company right then and there. Kevin seemed pleased, but that's to be expected. He didn't know who my father was. My name is Alex Thompson. I'm a 27-year-old man working at the general trading company Smith Trading. I've been in sales for 5 years. I enjoy interacting with people, so I chose a career in sales, and it's been a great fit for me. In my role, I meet various clients, which provides many opportunities to interact with different people, making my work enjoyable. Our company is quite sizable and is well known in the industry for its comprehensive employee benefits, making it a reputable workplace. The staff is generally good-natured, and it's rare to find anyone unpleasant. I have grown so attached to this company that I wanted to spend my entire career here. The new fiscal year had arrived, and with it, the season for new employees to join. By my 5th year in the workforce, I had gained quite a few juniors. On this day, my manager John assigned me the role of mentor to a newcomer. I'm counting on you. I believe you can do it, and I'll support you. Let's do our best, John encouraged, boosting my motivation. All right, let's give it my all, I responded. Everyone, how are you? Said Kevin Johnson, the company's executive vice president, as he appeared. Kevin, how are you? John and everyone else in the department greeted him. Then a woman appeared behind Kevin. Her eyeshadow was blue, her eyelashes were perfect, and her lips were so shiny you'd think she had just eaten fried chicken. A classic question that almost slipped out. Well, that must be lip gloss. Her nails were incredible. They were extremely flashy, so long and sparkly they could grab coins as small as a penny, adorned with pearls and such. She definitely had the look of a modern girl. I was wondering who she was when Kevin said, This is my daughter Megan. She's one of this year's new recruits and will be joining this department. Who's in charge of training her? Yes, we were thinking of having Alex take care of it, John replied. Is that so? Is that so? Kevin asked, and John responded with, Yes, that would be me, as I raised my right hand. Kevin patted my shoulder and said, Oh, you? Then please take good care of my daughter. Very good care. And with a "see-you," he left the department. He said very good care twice. I guess that means something. As for Megan, Kevin's daughter, she was nonchalantly playing with her flashy nails, looking completely uninterested. Well, she is a new employee after all. Megan, could you introduce yourself? John asked somewhat hesitantly. She replied with just, I'm Megan, 20 years old, and left it at that. Is that all? The whole department must have been thinking the same as the room felt eerily silent. Anyway, I'm Alex, your mentor. Looking forward to working with you, I said to Megan. She responded with a yeah, and began to fiddle with her hair. Is she really going to be okay? I couldn't help but feel anxious. My worries proved to be well-founded, as Megan showed an extreme lack of enthusiasm for her work. While previous new employees like the eager and motivated Sophia showed some semblance of being new recruits, Megan showed none of that. By the way, as her mentor, I've noticed she doesn't seem interested in communicating with me either. Even when I try to engage her in conversation, she's often looking at her phone or, even worse, her nails, hardly appropriate during work hours. Naturally, this makes effective communication virtually impossible. Is she perhaps not comfortable with verbal communication? I wondered, thinking she might be more talkative via mail or social media. So I suggested, I think it would be better to have each other's contact information. Could you share your email or social media account? Her response was, absolutely not. I wondered if I had been too forward, but then again, she frequently used her phone during work or left her seat often. When asked, she would say she was taking a break or going to the restroom. It was clear to everyone that she lacked motivation. Where on earth did she leave her enthusiasm? She would complete the tasks I assigned, but without a finished report from Megan, I had no way of knowing if she had actually completed them, leading to unnecessary double-checking. Megan, if you report when you're done, it makes it easier to check. Isn't it unnecessary since you'll check afterward anyway? She retorted. I thought reporting was essential, but it seemed futile to argue. Despite this, Megan's writing was meticulous, and she could complete paperwork at a decent pace, suggesting she was capable when she wanted to be. It was just that she chose not to. As Megan continued to be a source of trouble for me, days went by and work didn't stop. Today was a day to visit our client. We've had a long-standing relationship with this company, and I had been introduced to them as a new employee myself. Since then, I took over from my senior and have maintained a good relationship with them. I'm even on friendly terms with David, our contact there outside of work. When I mentioned to Megan that we were going to greet a client, she looked visibly annoyed. It's all part of the experience. I somehow managed to persuade her before we headed to the client location. We were shown to the usual meeting room, and Megan was fiddling with her phone while we waited. Megan, you might want to stop that. I started just as David entered the room. Alex, thanks as always for your help. Really appreciate it. David, the pleasure is all ours. Today I've brought a new recruit with me. I encouraged Megan to introduce herself. Oh, a lady this time. David seemed relieved, waiting for her introduction. Megan looked up from her phone and said simply, I'm Megan, then immediately looked back down. That's it. Really, that's it. David glanced at me as if to say, is that all? Don't look at me. Megan, is that all for the introduction? Yes, it is. But before we left, I mentioned that I wanted you to talk to him about that matter and to hand over the documents, right? Oh, I forgot what I was supposed to talk about. And the documents you want me to hand over are in my bag, so just take them out yourself. As for that matter, if you remember, you can talk about it. But I asked you to handle it. Well, now I'm asking you, so please take care of it, she said, starting to fiddle with her nails again. David and I were left speechless again. We exchanged glances in silence, both apologetic. I'm truly sorry, David. In the end, I handled all the discussions with David, making Megan's presence there pointless. On our way out, David sympathized. Seems like you're having a tough time with the new recruit training. Just as well it was me this time. I sensed some criticism in his words. This was clearly causing inconvenience to our clients as well, and I realized I might need to have a serious talk with Megan again. As we returned to the office, it was almost closing time. But since we had been visiting the client, I needed to submit a report. Overtime isn't ideal, but it's easier to write the report on the same day while the discussion is still fresh in mind. Megan, I need to write the report now, so could you stay a little longer? No, the working hours are over, so I'm going home. Goodbye. With that, Megan really just left the department before I could even speak. That was it. Everyone in the department was taken aback by her behavior. As expected, Megan's attitude was poor, and even after returning home, I continued to feel disgusted. People around me even asked, "Did you get angry?" Even I, who thought so, was quite upset. With those feelings, I came to work the next day to explain to Megan how to prepare the report. Despite her attitude, Megan does show up for work every day. I've heard that her father, Kevin, brings her along, but I decided to address yesterday's behavior as well and said, Megan, your attitude towards David yesterday was unacceptable. He's someone we've relied on for many years, so he didn't say anything. But it wouldn't have been tolerated if it were someone else. Oh well, I didn't get scolded, so it's probably fine, right? It's not about that. It's about how that attitude won't be acceptable elsewhere. What if someone treated you the same way? I wouldn't care, she responded casually. Her response left me muttering, that's not good at all. Our attitude can lead to contracts being terminated. We have to be professional in our roles. I tried to explain, but she just laughed it off as an exaggeration. My patience was wearing thin. Megan, with that attitude and mindset, you might not be able to continue in this company. Then you should just fire me, she said, standing up and leaving the department. In today's times, it's not that easy to just fire someone, right? Was she aware of this when she spoke? While Megan was away, I decided to consult John about her. John was completely on guard the moment I approached, as if to say, what are you talking about? But I've had enough. I stood in front of John and said, John, don't you think Megan's attitude is a bit much, both as a working adult and as a new employee? However, John's response was a smile and, well, haha, I mean, she is Kevin's daughter after all. Just bear with it a little longer. You can handle it, I'm sure. Struggling to hold back the urge to say, so what if she's Kevin's daughter? I couldn't help but think John was unreliable, which seemed only natural. I won't ask for forgiveness for feeling this way. I could feel the stress building up inside me. One day, as I was somehow managing to keep the stress from boiling over, Megan did it again. The contract she prepared had incorrect information. As usual, Megan didn't say, I'm done, so when I checked it around the time I assumed she would be finished, I found that the amount wasn't written in words. Moreover, there were no units provided, so it was just numbers written there. This wouldn't qualify as a contract for our company. We're instructed to write amounts in both numbers and words, and to include the unit after the amount in our contracts. Of course, I had explained this to Megan as part of the training on how to prepare contracts, but it seemed she hadn't understood. Megan, I saw the contract you prepared. Is this really finished? I asked. She just nodded. The amount isn't written in words, so we can't use this as a contract. Do you remember when I taught you how to make one? I might not remember. Oh, you don't remember? I'll explain it again. Can you redo it, and remember this time? Megan visibly looked bothered. Why don't you just fix it? No, this is the task I entrusted to you. Plus, if you don't correct it yourself, you'll make the same mistake next time. Try to explain gently. Wouldn't it be faster if the person who noticed the mistake just fixed it? No, you have to take responsibility for your own work. Well, I was just told to do it. Plus, I don't really have a sense of responsibility, so you can just fix it. That was the last straw for me. Enough is enough. Is this how a working adult behaves? I couldn't help but raise my voice. Megan stared back wide-eyed. I could feel everyone in the department looking our way. I saw John panicking out of the corner of my eye. Then, from behind, an even louder voice boomed, You scoundrel. Whose daughter do you think you're yelling at? As I turned around, there was Kevin's figure. Kevin strode towards me with large steps and yelled, How dare you yell at my daughter? Look at her, she looks like she's about to cry. It seems that Kevin came to see how his daughter was doing at work and happened to encounter me raising my voice. Moreover, it was true that I had yelled at Megan, so I had nothing to say in return. Kevin, let's calm down. John approached Kevin and tried to soothe him with a comic-like phrase, but Kevin's anger only seemed to escalate. John, along with Seth and Andrew from nearby seats, had to restrain him as he was about to get physical. Shut up. You made my daughter cry. You're the worst scum. Someone as clueless as you doesn't belong in our company. Get out of here right now. Kevin yelled. Understood, I'll leave. After being told off by Kevin, I decided to do as I was told and leave. John, please take care of the rest, I said, grabbed my backpack, and left the department. Kevin was still making a fuss, yelling, Get your hands off me. The department was in an uproar because I was about to really leave. But at this point, I didn't care anymore. As I was leaving, I saw Megan. Instead of looking like she was about to cry, her face was pale, and our eyes met. It was the first time I had seen such an expression on her face, but I decided to ignore it and left the company. About 3 days after being told to leave by Kevin, I went to work as usual in the morning. Kevin had only told me to leave, not that I was fired. As I walked through the company's entrance hall, I unexpectedly encountered Kevin and Megan. It was our first reunion in 3 days. Oh, I accidentally made eye contact with Kevin. Noticing me, Kevin started striding towards me again. Megan was looking down behind him. Why are you here even though you were fired? Kevin yelled at me. I replied with a smile, Well, I wasn't officially fired. I've just been on paid leave for the past few days. What are you talking about? It's because someone like you is in charge of training that my daughter hates her job. How dare you yell at her? Kevin was trembling with anger, but I decided to finally say what I had been wanting to say. Now that it's come to this, let me say that your daughter Megan has always lacked motivation and didn't try to learn her job. She never used polite language with anyone and acted as if she wanted to be fired. Maybe she wanted to quit from the beginning. How could that be? The reason Megan is depressed and has no energy is all, all your fault, Kevin stammered. When there's an angry person in front of me, I somehow become calm, which I think is a common experience. That's exactly how I feel right now. This person wants to blame everything on me. He even said all 3 times. Really, what kind of upbringing leads to someone like you? I'd like to see the face of such a parent. I wondered what would happen if I said, then what kind of upbringing led to Megan turning out this way? As I looked at Kevin with a cold gaze, I heard a voice saying, "Ah, so you're here." When I looked towards the voice, it was the president and chairman of Smith Commerce, Mr. Smith. "Mr. Smith, good morning." Kevin straightened up immediately. Even someone like Kevin couldn't stand up to Mr. Smith. However, Mr. Smith ignored Kevin and spoke to me. "I'd heard you were coming to work, but I couldn't find you anywhere. I told you we'd go together by car. I asked around, and no one knew where my son was. Well, it's overwhelming how many people wouldn't know where your son is if you asked. I was just caught up in a conversation here." Caught up in a conversation. It didn't seem like that. Mr. Smith glanced sharply at Kevin. "Kevin, you seem to be quite authoritative. Did this kid do something? I heard something about wanting to see a parent's face." "Exactly. This Alex was in charge of my daughter's training, and he yelled at her. I really want to see the face of whoever raised him," Kevin said defiantly. Then Mr. Smith said, "If you want to see his parent's face, it's right in front of you. This kid is my son, so I am the father. That means the parent's face is mine." Saying that, Mr. Smith smiled warmly. "Indeed, as my father standing beside me said, I am the real son of Mr. Smith. There's a reason my surname is different from my father's. It's because my parents are in a common law marriage. In other words, my parents are not legally married, and there's certainly a reason for that too. The reason for this is because my mom always cherished her freedom and didn't want to be tied down by anything. My mom, a designer who traveled the world for her job, always referred to it as her calling. She is still active in her career, and her brand Marin is featured in the Paris collection every year. Even when she met my dad and they discussed marriage, the idea of quitting her job was unthinkable for her. In fact, she almost broke up with my dad, saying, "I like you, but if I become a housewife, I won't be able to work." However, not wanting to lose her, my dad proposed, "Let's get married without you having to quit your job." But she further troubled him by saying, "Then I'll become a corporate president's wife, won't I? That's too high a position, and it will interfere with my work." After many discussions, they settled on a common law marriage instead of an official one. This story was a frequent tale from my parents since I was little, and I must have heard it hundreds of times. Each time, my mom would smirk and say, "Dramatic, isn't it?" When I was born, my mom had custody, and my dad acknowledged me as his son. Though my mom, dad, and I lived apart, I believe we still had a strong family bond. My dad took full responsibility for my financial support, including my education. It was a somewhat unique family situation, but it felt normal to me, and I was still happy with it. Growing up, I was aware that having parents who were a world-renowned designer and a company president was impressive. As a kid, I often traveled the world with my mom. Being the son of a company president, I was frequently referred to as the president's son. However, this led to people discounting my efforts, assuming my dad was pulling strings, or saying, "Of course, with parents like yours, you're bound to be great." I hated being called a beneficiary of nepotism. At some point, I began hiding my parents' occupations and status, saying, "My parents are just a regular salaried worker and a homemaker." Joining my father's company was not due to nepotism. It was my own merit. Initially, I had no intention of applying to Smith Trading and planned to apply to another company. But the Career Center at my university insisted, "With your capabilities, you should definitely apply to Smith Trading." Smith Trading is a highly popular company among students, always ranking high in employment company rankings. I tried to decline politely, saying, "I'd rather not," but the Career Center pushed, "It's Smith Trading, just apply, that's all." So I ended up applying for a sales position there. I didn't expect to get in and went to the interview without telling my parents, only to be surprised by my acceptance. Since I have a different last name from my father, I'd assumed no one at the company knew I was the son of Mr. Smith. After all, I hadn't told either of my parents. Does that mean I got in on my own merit? I remember feeling ecstatic. Later, I discreetly asked the HR person, and it turns out my ability to speak 4 languages was a decisive factor. Indeed, during the interview, they were surprised enough to ask, "Why didn't you become an interpreter?" This was thanks to my mom taking me around the world from a young age. Thanks to her, I developed an interest in foreign languages and had a reason to study them. Thank you, Mom. And so I decided to join Smith Trading. I met my father for the first time at the company's entrance ceremony. I wanted to surprise my parents, so I desperately kept my job offer a secret. When my father spotted me at the ceremony, he was so shocked it made me laugh. After it ended, he came up to me and excitedly asked, "Alex, you're working here." I had no idea. What do you think? What a position. I hadn't expected him to ask in such a casual manner, so I immediately replied, "Please, let's not go there." When I said, "If people find out I'm your son, it'll make work difficult, and I want to earn my position as Dad's right-hand man on my own merit," my father understood and agreed. "We're looking forward to seeing your capabilities," he said, and our relationship remained undisclosed. Anyway, there's rarely any interaction between a new employee and the president and chairman of the company. 5 years have passed since I joined the company, and my parents continued their careers in a common law marriage. Recently, my father was diagnosed with cancer. When he received the diagnosis, he called my mom and me for a rare family gathering. My father, now weakened by the news, muttered, "I'll be leaving this world alone." "What are you talking about? We're a family. You're not alone," I said. My mom added, "Exactly, we've been a family for years even without a marriage certificate." "However," he murmured, "but in a common law marriage, we're not legally family, and it might be difficult to even visit me. Then I'll be alone." While I wondered if that could really be the case, I did recall hearing that common law marriages aren't legally recognized as family. So in hospitals, one can't sign consent for surgery or receive explanations about a patient's condition. A deep sigh from Dad. It was clear from his demeanor that something was off. Seeing Dad like this seemed to have made up Mom's mind. "All right, let's get married officially. I'm not so heartless as to leave you to battle cancer alone," my mother said. And so, my parents ended their long-term common law marriage and became officially married. Furthermore, my mother said, "I'm getting on in years and I've been thinking of winding down my work a bit. I've decided to move my base of operations here." Dad perked up at this and said loudly, "Then let's live together." My mother also agreed, saying, "Well, it can't be helped." Thus, after about 30 years, my parents started living together. After that, Dad was over the moon and had been in high spirits every day. Having been living on my own since graduating from college, I decided to move in with my parents, taking this as an opportunity. I hadn't asked how long Dad had left, but I thought it would be nice if this helped him draw up a bit, and spending family time together towards the end wouldn't be too bad. While preparing to live together after getting married, we went to hear about the surgery for Dad's cancer, and there we heard something unexpected. Turns out, Dad's cancer was stage 1, early stage gastric cancer, something that could be easily removed with endoscopic surgery. The possibility of metastasis and recurrence was extremely low, and it wasn't immediately life-threatening. He had already been informed and had given his consent for the endoscopic surgery. Hearing this, Mom was fuming, saying, "That man, he tricked me." While I felt deceived as well, seeing Dad so happy living with Mom, and Mom seemingly enjoying their time together, made me think that maybe this was for the best. It was quite a forceful move, though, but I hadn't realized Dad was such a strategist. I guess that's quite the skill. After getting married, Dad was ecstatic, telling everyone, "I finally get to live with my family." Only I knew that the joyous skips Mr. Smith made through the office, which sparked rumors of great company performance, were actually because he was overjoyed about finally living with Mom. The reason I took 3 days off was to move into the new family home. I had properly taken leave after discussing it with John, then speaking to Kevin as if advising him. Dad said, "I might not be one to talk, but it seems you are quite the doting parent, aren't you? I can understand valuing your own child highly, but making such a unilateral decision to fire someone is a bit much, isn't it? You shouldn't have that level of authority in personal decisions, even as a vice president." At Dad's words, Kevin was at a loss for words. Then, looking at Megan, who was standing behind Kevin with her head down, Dad said, Kevin's daughter, was it, Megan? She looked up as if startled. Do you have anything you want to say? Now's the time to speak up if you do. When spoken to so kindly, Megan seemed a bit troubled at first. But then, as if making up her mind, she lifted her face. I really wanted to be an actress. I was part of a theater troupe and was chasing that dream. But my dad didn't understand and kept saying to quit the nonsensical troupe and stop chasing silly dreams. I didn't want to give up on acting, so I kept at it. But then he started harassing the troupe. After repeatedly asking him to stop, he said, "Quit that ridiculous troupe and join our company, and I'll stop." So I had no choice but to quit. I joined a company, but I thought if I got fired, I could pursue acting again. So I wanted to be fired quickly. So you were intentionally underperforming, Megan said, looking uncomfortable. Kevin then yelled, "Are you still saying that? Stop chasing such foolish dreams. You just need to listen to what your parents, say." Mr. Smith calmly interjected, "I understand how you feel. We're parents after all. We don't want our children to take up an unstable job like acting. And I understand why you took such drastic measures. If they don't give up, if my son said the same, I might do the same. But children aren't our possessions. I understand your concern and care, Kevin, but I think the way you're protecting her is wrong. Megan is already 20 and should take responsibility for her own life." Mr. Smith spoke firmly yet in a manner that seemed to advise Kevin. Kevin was left speechless. Finally, Mr. Smith said, "Kevin and Megan, you're both on house arrest for the next 3 days. Use this time to have a proper discussion." Then he added, "I've got a meeting to attend now. See you." Alex left. I was thinking I should head to my department soon, but before that, I felt I needed to say something to Megan. I understand your situation, but you realize what you did isn't acceptable as a working adult, right? If you wanted to be fired, there could have been another way. I'm sorry, she was able to apologize properly. I want you to apologize not just to me but to other colleagues, John and our clients, especially David. I'll go and apologize, Megan said earnestly. All right, please do. I had suspected that you might have been intentionally underperforming. Your paperwork was actually done quickly, and you were quick to learn other tasks. By the way, Megan, is pursuing your dream of acting something that can't be balanced with work? Huh? Megan was taken aback by my question. I mean, if you were pretending to be bad at your job, doesn't that mean you could also do the opposite? I've heard it's common for actors to have a separate day job. Maybe it's something you could do too. It's just my personal opinion, but I hope you'll consider it. I'm not sure how much my words resonated with her or what she'll decide to do, but I hope Megan finds a path that she's truly satisfied with. As I head to my department after the 3-day house arrest, Megan returned to work with a clear and bright expression. She declared, "I've had many serious discussions with my parents. I'll balance my dream and my job." Moreover, she apologized to me, saying, "I'm truly sorry for everything. I'll work hard from now on, so please guide me again." Afterward, Megan went around apologizing to everyone in our department and others. She's planning to apologize to David tomorrow. She's already made an appointment. I'm planning to accompany her. She also managed to return to her theater troupe and plans to participate in their activities after work and on weekends. Things might get a bit hectic, but since I've had the opportunity to join this company, I'll do my best, Megan said, looking more vibrant than before. Kevin also apologized to me directly, saying, "I'm sorry." And it seems the discussions within the Johnson family led Kevin to realize he had been too overprotective. After hearing Mr. Smith's words, they decided to give each other some space. Megan, who had been living at home, decided to start living on her own, while Kevin offered to transfer to a subsidiary company. Kevin's transfer was approved, and he moved to the subsidiary within a week. Megan is currently looking for a place to live. Every time I come home, I'm greeted with "How was your day?" which makes me think I'll be getting daily calls if I start living alone, she said with a laugh. In fact, I've started receiving daily emails from Kevin asking, "How's Megan's work going?" But I'm thinking of keeping that to myself. I personally find it rewarding to see Megan grow day by day in her role. It's gratifying to teach someone eager to learn, and somewhat troublingly, it's become common knowledge in the company that I'm the son of Mr. Smith. Changing my surname from Anderson to Smith might have contributed to that. The decisive factor was probably that conversation with Kevin and others in the entrance hall, which was overheard by passing employees. Knowing Mr. Smith, he's probably been saying things like, "My son, you know, there are even rumors I might become the next president." It feels like another one of Mr. Smith's deliberate acts. There's also a rumor that Mr. Smith is grooming the role of president and chairman to prepare the president's position for me. When I ask Mr. Smith, he just smiles, and I have no intention of becoming the president myself. I'm even considering asking for a transfer somewhere else. Those are the kind of days I'm having. Just like Kevin wanted to protect Megan, I think it's natural for anyone to want to protect their loved ones. But if you go about it the wrong way, not only does your intention not get conveyed, it might even lead to misunderstandings. It made me think about how important it is not to make mistakes and how to protect the people important to me. What's the right way, you ask? I don't have a clear answer either, but that's why communication is so important. Discussing each other's thoughts is crucial. It made me think again about the importance